In the 10 years I have this Chanel classic flat in my collection, I've used it probably less than 30 times. I haven't actually thought about selling it, even though I've done a lot of downsizing to my handbag collection in the last few years. The reason is no other than the very consistent Chanel price increases. And you know what? With the latest adjustment, this bag is now about $10,000, whereas a Chanel Jumbo now costs about $11,000. Now, Chanel usually adjusts their prices twice a year anyway, and each time the increase is about 10% on average. With the recent global inflation, I really don't think many of us are surprised to see this price increase from Chanel. Although somewhat expected, it must be frustrating to have to pay $1,000 more for your dream bag overnight. While the pricing strategy might turn some people off, I believe Chanel will have no problem retaining their core customer base. There will always be people who are willing to pay anything for Chanel, and I guess that's why Chanel is always so decisive and bold with their price adjustment in the first place. There's even speculation that Chanel is trying to create a sense of exclusivity and protect the novelty of their brand. Over the years, the Chanel classic collections have consistently go up in price, and now they are officially in the same price range like the Hermes Birkin and Kelly bags. Although, if you factor in the purchase history, the Birkin is still technically twice the price. As far as the bag design goes, I prefer my Birkin, but that is just a personal preference. In terms of craftsmanship, however, the Hermes Birkin and Kelly bags are hand-stitched by a single artisan from start to finish, whereas the Chanel bags are sold using machines. This means mass production is very much possible, and therefore the supply is more available and steady compared to Hermes handbags. That said, I don't think many people would scrutinize the production details. When we look at the handbag, we tend to focus on the more practical features, such as the bag design, the color, the hardware, and the overall quality. And sometimes, brand loyalty alone is enough to justify any purchase. For example, I always wonder how Chanel can charge $800 for a pair of crystal earrings when that kind of money could buy real diamonds and pearls. For me, that is a prime example of how powerful branding can be in the fashion and luxury industry. Of course, Chanel is not alone in this. Many luxury brands capitalize on their logo and their brand in the same way. But the fact that the demand is unwavering means the price increases will keep going. I personally haven't bought from Chanel in over 4 years. The drastic price increase is one reason, but it also has a lot to do with my own shopping experience at Chanel. After buying several Chanel handbags on impulse and eventually selling them at a loss, I kind of lost my fantasy about the brand. The fact that those handbags didn't work out for me means I no longer romanticize the brand like I did when I first started. You know, I used to see Chanel as a brand with a halo, and I would buy a Chanel bag just because it's Chanel without actually putting myself in the picture. Oftentimes, I even saw the price increase as a safety net. Now, I still like certain handbags from Chanel, but I just don't see the brand with the same kind of admiration and novelty anymore. I think having a curated handbag collection certainly helps to keep me grounded. I don't feel like I have the same sense of urgency like I did when I first started buying luxury handbags. So in a way, where we are on our shopping journey can affect the way we look at luxury price increases. I mean, it's always easier to look at price increases with a sense of indifference when you're not trying to build your collection from scratch per se. Meanwhile, if you're quite new to designer shopping and you know you love Chanel, the price increases can feel a lot more frustrating. But here's the thing, the price increases will keep happening. So at some point, we kind of have to stop looking back. When I bought my Chanel Classic flat 10 years ago, it was about $4,000. It might sound like a bargain now, but back then I could have told myself, boy, it was $2,000 cheaper 5 years before and maybe 10 times cheaper 10 years before that. I mean, where does it stop? So I think if you're really interested in buying a Chanel, it makes sense to look at the bag as it is today and then judge for yourself if this bag is still worth the current price tag. One thing I wouldn't recommend anyone do is trying to settle for your second best. So if you really want a Chanel classic flap or a mini flap, don't try to buy a similar and cheaper alternative, because chances are you might end up resenting your own decision because you know you've made compromises. Besides, it's very likely you're just taking a more expensive detour. Years ago, I bought a Dior Promenade flap in the hope to replace a Chanel mini flap that I really wanted. You see, I had all the reasons to love the Dior bag because it was beautiful, so well made, and a lot cheaper. But deep down, I never forgot about the Chanel mini flap, and I ended up buying it anyway. As with the Dior bag, I had to sell it at less than half the price, brand new, which was heartbreaking. That said, I think it's equally important to shop in a level-headed manner at Chanel. I used to really struggle with navigating that sense of urgency because everything sells out so quickly at Chanel. One thing that has really helped me is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a solid no. So if you ever hesitate about the color, the hardware, or any other details, walk away. On that note, I have a question for you. So let's say you're in the Chanel store and you really want a classic flap in black. The sales associate tells you there's only one in the store and it's in a dark gray color. It's not black, but it's a nice neutral color. And by the way, there's also a price increase tomorrow. Now, would you buy the bag in a dark gray color, or would you pay $1,000 more for the one in black? Please let me know down below. The next question is, should you buy pre-loved? I personally don't mind buying a secondhand handbag at this point, and I do browse on certain consignment websites that I know are trustworthy. However, the secondhand pricing is basically a reflection of the pricing in the store, and they go up accordingly whenever Chanel adjusts their prices. One thing about buying pre-loved is that you might have to wait for quite a long time before your dream bag shows up in the right condition, so a bit of patience is needed. Rightfully, some people might worry about the issue of authenticity when buying secondhand. I remember buying my first Chanel and even first few luxury handbags. I did not consider secondhand as an option. I was quite new to designer shopping back then, and to me, it was worth paying more for the peace of mind. But now that I've worked with several consignment services and I've sold many luxury items myself, I'm a lot more open to the idea. That said, I would only consider buying something if it comes with the proof of purchase, and best still if it comes with the whole packaging. Please let me know how you feel about buying secondhand, or do you strictly buy from the store? With such consistent price increases, it's really starting to feel like Chanel could make a very solid investment. I mean, not many stocks out there go up by 10% a year every single year. Even if you're not obsessed about the aspect of resale value, I guess it's nice to know that your handbags are worth something if you ever change your mind. Now, I should point out that the consignment sale commission can be as high as 30%. But if you're talking about the Chanel Classic collections, the price increases could very potentially pay for the hefty commissions. All that being said, I personally wouldn't own a collection of Chanel flaps as investment because first of all, it takes up a lot of space. I then need to spend time to look after them and also pay for the insurance. Not to mention, a lot of insurance policies only go off the purchase price on your receipt. So the price increase might not actually be protected. And of course, the selling process itself is hardly easy or hassle-free. For some people, this could actually be a viable business structure. For example, if you own a reselling business or if you have a very big social media following, because it means you can buy a luxury handbag to review, give your audience the information they need, and work with certain brands. Having a following also means you have a direct channel for selling. which could be a win-win situation for both parties. I occasionally do block sale because by avoiding the sale commissions, I can let the pieces go at a cheaper price. When it comes to Chanel, I don't have any wishlist items at the moment, and I haven't in a while. But just like any other luxury brands, I think it helps to be aware of price increases. But at the end of the day, you want to buy what you will enjoy using. And most importantly, you want to buy when the time is right for you, not when Chanel says so. That's it from me today. Take care, and I will see you soon.